Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
Star Trek Podcast.
Oh, she's a beauty. Which one's that?
The USS Voyager. She made her name farther out than any of those other relics had ever gone. I was reborn there. She was my home. Her crew were my family. And now
You're just trying to find another.
All right, so we're starting the podcast now. We had promised that this is going to be a very chill and calm, relaxed podcast.
Well, we promised him that.
Calm.
We're going to be chill.
I don't remember him promising.
We're going to use slow words so that people
What's a slow word?
Onomatopoeia.
Disestablish
No, not that one.
Mentarianism.
Nintendoism.
No, Mentarianism. What?
We're talking slowly
So we don't talk over each other?
So as not to annoy people from other parts of the country.
Wait.
What?
People like not from the East Coast.
I don't know
Hey,
about that.
that's what someone told me.
Who told you that?
That's true.
Someone I worked with in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
She was like, you Easterners talk really fast and it's kind of annoying.
It's compared to other parts of most people.
I do believe that people will decide whether or not to enjoy the speed of. This is difficult.
It's harder to interrupt
is
when
harder.
you're not to interrupt when you're talking
Tricky.
slow. So when I said other parts of the country, you may have thought I was talking down to other people.
I was concerned that you might come
No.
across that way,
But I
not
was
that
trying-
you were, but that you
I
might
was-
come
You
across.
have to
that.
be careful with
I was
that.
trying to be empathetic towards their needs.
Okay,
Right.
I was pretty sure she was talking down to me when she told me.
slowing down your speaking
I'm pretty sure she was.
so they could follow.
I'm pretty sure she was talking down to me when she said I was being annoying by talking too fast. So,
all right.
Sounds like it.
With that experience,
Like she
but
needs
it's no
to
hard
shut up.
feeling. She's a cool person.
okay,
Nah, it doesn't sound. I think you're wrong.
good to know. So
Now I'm all obsessed. It's like, what do they think of? What if they think I think like some bad stuff?
yeah, it's all good. So we're starting the podcast, and we're gonna be real calm this week
We're gonna let each other finish
because
sentences.
because this was a seminal episode of Star Trek. So
Yeah.
we have to get through it all and discuss it in a
It was
pleasant
quite an
and
episode.
entertaining fashion. So so let's get through the key bits of information that we're required to get through at the beginning of the episode of each podcast. Welcome
It's got Star Trek podcast.
Welcome to the It's Got Star Trek
The
podcast.
It's got Star Trek.
The slower we go, like the more jittery I'm getting.
It's episode
one.
177. Episode 177 of the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
You know, we've done a lot of episodes.
Dan is positively vibrating over there in his podcasting.
And I cut out energy
Share.
drinks. All I drink now is now I'm drinking a Dr. Pepper, zero sugar, strawberries and cream.
Oh, that sounds like it might be tasty.
It's all right.
So this is the It's Got Star Trek podcast, and we are
Picard.
this week discussing Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 6,
Ooh.
called The Bounty.
The Bounty.
The
the
episode,
HMS Bounty.
yes, the
The
episode
HMS
name.
Actually,
Bounty.
that was the first example. The second example where she actually said the title by itself.
The Bounty.
The Bounty. The Bounty.
The Bounty.
The
The
Bounty.
Bounty.
The Bounty.
The Bounty.
The Bounty.
That was in a separate part of the episode. Did that sound cut up to you? Do you think that was one of those
Yeah.
It
instances?
does sound a
where-
little cut up.
I got a secret to tell you.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you've added that together because you
It was-
wanted her to say the title.
Yeah.
The HMS Bounty.
It was that one.
The Bounty.
The bounty. Yes. Right. Yes, we're getting that's the episode we're doing, and it's going to be an exciting conversation.
Oh, I hope so.
And we're going to be all chill and slow,
But exciting.
but exciting and entertaining.
Exciting for you, the listener.
We will be deliberative but entertaining. two words that go together so well.
We will be belligerent but entertaining.
Seriously?
Okay. One thing before we start talking about the episode proper is, we occasionally do, we have our little complaints about Paramount Plus from time to time. And this and this week, my only complaint was,
I'm excited to hear this.
I found that frequently while watching this episode, the screen got all like blurry and misty.
Yeah, I did notice.
It was like a very blurry and misty because, I don't know. And
the menu is kind of janky too when you try to use that shit.
I was mentioning last week that whenever I paused or rewound it, or jumped back or forward,
okay, yeah.
It's so funny. I can't possibly imagine what is funny about what I just said.
No. It's not what you said. It's the scenario, which I didn't want to interrupt you, but I'll briefly explain the scenario, which was I was going for and sort of in the process of going for a joke about how often I teared up while watching this episode.
Oh,
and I was trying to work up to like a blurry, misty thing.
Oh man!
Meanwhile, Jesse's like, yeah, because all the thing was all fucked up. And you're about to go into it. It's like, you know what?
It was blurry.
I was like, no, I'm just saying. I kept tearing up.
The menu is janky.
See,
But the menu is janky.
This is an example where we should have let Patrick finish what he had to say.
I know.
Because we just walked all over his
That's our
joke.
way.
We just walked all over. No, it shouldn't be though. We shouldn't walk on each other's jokes.
We should
walk on each other's backs.
We said we were going to cool it this time and have it chill, and we didn't. We didn't do it. We failed.
Okay, let's just
all just take on a breath.
Let's just remember that for the future, Patrick.
Sorry.
Patrick, I will not speak for Jesse.
I took too deep of a breath.
But I will speak.
My lungs were like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
I'm
sorry.
I will speak for me when I say I'm sorry and I see you. Okay.
Okay.
But the menu was getting.
See, I think you were sincere about that. It didn't feel sincere, but I think you were.
There's no way for our relationship for that interaction to come across
it's difficult
and land.
Yes.
Well, what I was going to say is last week when I paused it or jumped back or forward, it would take like 10 to 15 seconds for it to
settle down
to buffer and shit, which is weird. But you meant it wasn't the TV getting fuzzy.
It was a tearjerker.
You thought it was a tearjerker?
Yeah, there was stuff with Picard.
I think at times.
And Jack.
Yeah.
One of the main ones was Seven, and we'll get to that. But Seven talking about her time on Voyager.
True, yeah.
Geordi talking to his daughters
Geordi.
in various situations. I mean, specifically Sydney. So yes, there was a lot. There was a lot that tugged at my little whatever
my little
tear ducts.
The tear ducts. Is that what happens? Like something tugs at your ear ducts, and that's why you cry.
Tear ducts.
Okay.
Biologically,
Is
that a good biological analogy?
I think that's what you say. Yeah.
I would like to point out. So the opening was. I thought there were parts of this episode that were mildly confusing to me. The opening it was opening on 3 ships converging on a transponder.
Yeah.
One of them I think was one of them newfangled Excelsior 2 classes.
Now this wasn't the same. This wasn't okay. Later on in the episode,
slow it down. Just calm down. Yeah.
When they were leaving for 8th and Prime after they dropped Riker and Worf.
There's like 8th and Prime. It's like, meet me at the corner of 8th and Prime.
Yeah. What were they actually saying?
When they were going to 8th and Prime,
I'm sorry.
I just want to be clear because I wasn't sure what I was hearing.
Yes, it was 8th and Prime.
It was 8th and
I didn't do the
ATHAN.
It's okay.
So when they dropped Worf and Riker and Raffi off at the Daystrom Center, and then
Daystrom Station, not to be confused with the Daystrom Institute, which is in Okinawa.
Right. So they were found by the starships, right? And Shaw was like, "How? We dropped our transponder. He was like, how do we trip the alarm? When we dropped our transponder." And they were being followed. When did they drop their transponder? Was that at the beginning? Like, what was that transponder at the beginning? It wasn't until like several minutes. It was like 10-20 minutes into the episode when they were running away from Starfleet, when they warped away from Starfleet after dropping the crew onto Daystrom. I'm just going to call it Daystrom.
Daystrom Station.
Then they were talking about, Shaw was like, how they find us, we dropped our transponder. When did they drop their transponder? Because
was that thing at the beginning?
That's what I'm
or
wondering.
Was that just a beacon?
I was trying to make sense of what that opening was. The point of that whole opening.
I think that was to mislead the people chasing them.
Yeah, it was misleading them and
find them there.
And so the three ships converging were either A, evil Starfleet, or B, Starfleet that's not evil but doesn't realize that they're a ploy.
Well, I think it's the Starfleet that's being controlled by Vadic.
It's all in the one and the same, whether or not it's direct or indirect.
Right. And then Vadic, the Shrike went by a transponder. So I'm wondering if that's the transponder they were referring to later when Shaw was all surprised they could find him because they dropped their transponder. I don't know.
I think it was it's the same peeps.
It was the same peeps. Now, I thought it was kind of strange. That later on, like way late in the episode, Alondra's like, well, despite my father's many objections, every ship in this fleet is now fully integrated, which means they talk to each other. So you can drop transponder signals all you want, but the Titan is a beacon. So that's the answer to that. Yes. But I think it's funny that they're all shocked when they find out that they're still trackable even without the transponders because now they're part of a network of devices, and that's all brand new to them because they, as we know, they have mainframes. That's the other weird thing. They have mainframes.
And they don't have the internet.
They don't have the internet and cloud computing or anything. They have have mainframes, and they need transponders to track each other because they're not networked with each other. There's no internet in Star Trek, and they're just... I guess they're going with that theme, or I don't think they thought...
But they have replicators and transporters.
I'm wondering how much the writers thought about that when they were talking about, like, them dropping their transponders. It's like, oh, we're part of a network. This is crazy. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the motivation was behind that.
I don't imagine the writers were saying, this was crazy.
but the writers weren't. But the writers also weren't being like, well, this is Star Trek. They don't have internet in the Star Trek.
I don't know. It's to me. I get what they were going. They were doing the Battlestar Galactica thing. I mean, Geordi is a fan of Battlestar Galactica.
But there was a very.
He's like, I don't network the ships. That's stupid. No, because then the Cylons will come and get you.
Yeah, well, there was a very in-plot reason in Battlestar Galactica why they specifically said we used to, but we don't anymore. There was a very specific reason for it.
Yes.
And in this show, it's kind of like...
Geordi watched those old episodes, and he was like, those old shows were on to something.
Yeah.
Well... Anyways, I'm not going to hold the non-networking...
He was like, that's true, though.
I'm not going to hold the non-internet thing against Star Trek because Star Trek's been around before the internet. So it's like they're just going with, what's canon or whatever. They're not going to suddenly add internet.
But not to be all East Coast about this, Dan, and interrupt. I just wanted to, for this,
not to be all East Coast.
For the sake of the small number of people who may point out semantically that ARPANET, the beginnings of what became ARPANET may have existed. I think we can understand what that Dan was not referring to that sort of primitive network. I'm not referring to what was network.
I was not referring to what was made for the military back in the early 80s.
Dan
or whatever.
means current. Good old fashioned current internet,
where you don't have separate iPads that are like somehow can't.
You don't have to have 7 pads all tossed on your little couch.
Anyways, so I don't know. It's not that I'm not complaining about anything in particular here. I guess I'm just wondering, like,
broadly complaining.
It's just kind of interesting, like, why they chose to be surprised by the fact that their ships were just recently networked together. I don't know.
I suspect it's going to be because
they've been retired.
It's going to be a core plot point that all the current fleet. So Geordi also mentioned, like I've commented repeatedly, that it's ludicrous the idea that they would have the entire fleet for a parade for Frontier Day.
Yeah,
that's silly. I'm still annoyed by the concept because it's so silly that it shouldn't just be Geordi, a lone voice, sending memo after memo to the Federation saying this is a stupid idea.
Right. And Picard should have been like, instead of like giving a speech at that shit, he should have been like, wait, guys.
Yeah, and just it doesn't make sense for an organization that spans a significant portion of the galaxy to pull back all his research. Like, it's just, that's not going to happen. That doesn't make any sense. But they are going that direction.
It's all going back to Earth.
That is going to be the MacGuffin because presumably the clues they've given us are the whole fleet's going to be there. There's a bunch of old ships that aren't networked that are at a museum that are ready to go for the heroes to steal and use in battle.
A couple of Klingon ships.
That the ships are all networked together, which means the bad guys can hack into the ships and control them all and have them fight each other or whatever. I don't think they're going to have them fight each other because they just did that plot on Prodigy. That's how like that was like a key thing in Prodigy is Federation ships being tricked into fighting each other. So I don't think they're going to do that. But I'm guessing that's where all that
Prodigy
networking stuff comes in. But it was really cool to see Geordi coming on board and being all like there's the whole Geordi father thing, which we can talk about in a second. But the Geordi,
he's got tons of kids. How many other kids does he have?
The Geordi engineer bits were really cool.
And you notice that here I have a little bit of Shaw, who fucking like treats Riker and Picard like they're some pieces of dirt, some total pieces of shit. It's
favorite
like,
things in the whole episode.
They're just like Captain and Admiral. He's like, fuck you guys.
Totally. Yeah.
But then,
Mr. LaForge, as a former engineer, I wanted to say what an honor it is to have you on board. Yeah, it's been a weird week. Thank you. Bridge to transport. See that the LaForges get home safe.
And you can even see. And you could see Picard and like Riker, they were looking at each other like, what's going on here?
Yeah, what would he do if he met O'Brien?
Who? O'Brien. If he met O'Brien, because O'Brien's a badass engineer as well.
Chief O'Brien?
Exactly, the same O'Brien.
Yeah, self-sealing stem bolts for everybody.
Self-sealing stem bolts.
All around.
Chief O'Brien?
Yes. Shaw and Geordi's interaction was great. I thought Picard, at least, I didn't know, I wasn't paying attention to Riker, but Picard, just to me, he looked bemused. He thought I think he thought it was cute that Geordi was getting this well-deserved respect.
I think you're right. It was more Picard. It was, they were doing
Picard.
More than one person did it. Look, she goes,
so weird.
She goes,
Picard.
and then Jack goes,
Jean-Luc Picard.
They both do it.
Yeah, he had a little bit more D.
And the most D.
more D. Jack D.
The most D was with Creepy Data.
Jean-Luc Picard.
Yes.
Isn't that weird? He had that weird voice.
Yeah.
Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah.
Yes. That was a lot of weird.
Yeah,
All right.
Jean-Luc Picard.
We're
we
keeping
jumping
steady.
ahead?
No, we are jumping ahead, but we are keeping steady with the chillness. But Geordi and his daughters. Let's speak.
Geordi?
Let's speak to that, because I do want to get to all the fun later stuff, because there is a lot of cool fun later stuff. The Geordi and the daughters stuff was, so Alondra is played by Mika Burton, his LeVar Burton's daughter. So that's cool. So one of his daughters is played by his daughter.
That's the other one that's an engineer, right?
Yes, she's an engineer. And I believe the names Alondra and Sydney, I think those match up to what Geordi said his daughter's names were in All Good Things. So there's a bit of continuity there.
Continuity.
Oh, so they were already born back then.
Well, in All Good Things in the future. It was an alternate future. It was like an alternate future where he married Leah Brahms. I
need to watch that, James.
I think so. But an interesting characteristic that comes along with these season-long arcs in modern Star Trek is that even though they are spending more time delving into a specific story, certain things get compressed in order to get introduced into the plot. And Geordi being introduced, and then the Commodore, this business between Geordi and
Commodore
and his daughter,
he's the only
Sydney, having this. So basically, we're essentially introduced to the idea of this conflict between Sydney and Geordi. I think it was hinted at before, but this is where we're really introduced to that conflict, and then it's resolved in the same episode.
Right. Before they even brought up, before we even saw Geordi, Seven was like, "We're being hailed." Picard's like, "Gord." Sydney's like, "Respectfully, sir, I'm not sure." She was like, "We shouldn't take this cause," because she knew it was going to be her pops.
Yeah,
but that's kind of selfish. Like, why was she like? Why was she saying like we shouldn't?
She thought he wasn't going to help them.
Yeah,
and she was right.
I think she was like thought that she seemed like she was scared of him.
Well, that might be part of it.
That dude freaks her out, man.
Yeah.
And there were a few cliched things that I think is what happens is you end up
crazy eyes.
You end up relying on cliches when you have to tell the story quickly. And this story was compressed into a single episode into one thread in a very busy single episode. And so they did rely on a few cliches. And one of those cliches being a child going against the career wishes of their parent, and the parent being overly protective and concerned and causing issues for the child, that basically telling the child not to make the same decisions they made.
Don't be a pilot in Starfleet, be an engineer in Starfleet.
And Geordi was when he was talking to I can't remember if he was talking to Picard or Riker or whoever it was, but he was like, Sydney, she was the hard one. It was
Picard, yeah.
It was Picard. He was like, she's the hard one, just stubborn. In truth, she probably got it from me. And it's like, I was thinking, like, was Geordi ever really that stubborn? That wasn't really a known character trait of Geordi to be stubborn. So this is to speak to what you were saying about these.
He was stubbornly attracted to women who he had never met before.
Yes.
Except on the holodeck.
So this speaks to what you were saying about these sort of tropey sort of situations where it's like the one who, the father and child, or the mother, the parent and child who don't get along. It's actually because they're so much alike, and they're both stubborn, and like, and Geordi is like, it's like, that's like, I don't know. I just never really thought of him.
And
as
even
a
the
very stubborn
resolution,
person.
like the part where after they get the cloaking device, and Geordi is all like, "Well, I'm going to help you. Hand me the Ghibli blobber spanner," and she's all like, "Actually, you need the floppy bloop." It's like, what? Come on, Geordi knows what he's doing. Now, all that being said, yes, they had to rely on some cliches. The fact is that the actors involved, the writing, it all worked for me. It still worked.
Totally.
I'm observing it. I'm making note of it, so that I can go home tonight thinking I said something smart on a podcast. But other than that, that's it, right? It was still kind of really nice to see this next stage in Geordi's life, and through these conversations with his daughters, you do infer what his life has been, at least over the past, the most recent years.
So he's just like the caretaker of the Fleet Museum.
I guess so, but that seems like, there's a lot of stuff going on.
The only Commodore ever in Starfleet.
Well, no, there's lots of Commodores.
Have there been other Commodores?
Oh, yeah. In TOS, they had Commodores all the time. And then in Picard, they brought back, they had Commodore. What's her name in season 1?
Okay.
Because Commodore is the equivalent of what, a rear admiral or something like that.
Oh, it's a brigadier general.
Starfleet got rid of them and replaced them with like vice admirals or something. I forget what it was. There's some rank that like.
Well, the next rank up would be rear admiral, and usually like the Navy nowadays they don't have Commodores anymore. They just have like rear admiral, like junior or something.
Yeah, well, I know they have some other term for it nowadays, but yeah, so Star Trek TOS had lots of Commodores. Commodore Mendez.
He was asking for the ionic flow regulator.
They have a Commodore 64.
He was asking for the ionic flow regulator, and she was all like, "You need the focal adjustment spanner."
I know, right?
That's what it was.
And those are two totally different tools.
I know. I don't think Geordi's.
Did you say toys? Tools.
Oh, I thought you said toys.
Well, he's kind of old. He's been hanging out at that museum for a while, and he hasn't really
Well, I don't know if they meant to do this, but they did do a tropey fake out on me. When he was like, "I'm not mad," in that same line, he's like, "I'm not mad at you for what you did," speaking to Sydney. He's like, "I'm disappointed." And then I was like, "Oh no, he's not mad, he's disappointed her." But then he was like, "I'm disappointed in myself."
Oh.
You didn't grab that clip?
No, there's too many. I figured I could. I don't have to grab a clip for every single thing that I was thinking about this. I was like, I can just go back to just saying some of these clips instead of having 1,000 clips that takes me all day.
All right, so we do need to talk about, since we're already on the museum bit, that was one of the main parts of the episode was this.
Yeah. So
all the cool stuff.
I was wondering
that.
I was wondering that too. First of all, I was wondering what you were saying, Jesse, about. Is he the caretaker of the museum? Why was he at the museum? Like, just
right.
He's the head of the museum.
He's the head of the museum. Now, is this a public museum or is it just like a military museum where they just keep it secret?
It's just where they're storing the stuff.
I bet it was. If they call it a museum, I bet it's public.
It's like nerds, Starfleet nerds get to go there and
take a look.
Do
at
research.
Stuff. Well, then I have
ships.
a question.
Okay.
I have a question.
All right.
This was
Starfleet nerds.
This was when Seven was talking to Shaw, right? And They had stolen. Okay, this was after they stole the cloaking device from that Klingon ship, right?
Okay,
the bird of prey.
After they stole it,
actually, after Jack and Sydney stole it, and Geordi and Picard were just like, "Oh, you rascals! You stole a fucking cloaking device from the museum." then you could get court-martialed, you silly butts. And then like they put it on, so that's okay though. It was like, what are you gonna do at that point? They're like,
There's a bunch of treaties.
It's
they
Star Trek.
violated or
What are you gonna do? It's Star Trek.
but then
augmenting a ship with
They
a
Star
cloaking
Trek
device.
the hell out of this business.
So they cloaked, and then they got back, and Shaw was like, they have no idea we're here. And Seven's like, if I'm correct, we'll have to decloak in order to beam them up. What do you mean, if I'm correct? I thought it's pretty much common knowledge, not just among audience viewers, but like, if you've got a Klingon bird of prey for public viewing at a museum, everyone's gonna know how the cloaking system fucking works.
So Dan, I get where you're coming from, but you're getting a little
I see.
Atlantic-y right there.
Oh no, mid-Atlantic-y?
You're getting a little mid-Atlantic-y.
Uh-oh.
You're speeding up.
What?
You're shaking your fists.
I was wagging my finger, not shaking my fist.
You're wagging your finger, but the rest of your hand is a fist.
That's pushing it.
Were you gonna go get in your car and get all like road ragey?
I think this is
That's yeah. Excuse me, I gotta go. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Gotta go road rage.
I think this is one of those
I planned
scenarios.
for my road rage.
I think this is one of those scenarios. One of those
The
very,
overnight scenarios?
One of those very rare scenarios where we can maybe assume that the audience has more knowledge of 23rd century Klingon birds of prey than does Seven of Nine.
That was the beginning of my point.
Hence why she was saying, if I am correct.
No,
she was
if
hedging
you were-
her bet. She was being humble in the assertion of the information
if
she was
you-
providing.
If you listen to the first part of what I said, and now this whole like,
Hold up.
you're being East Coast. That's a new way to like fucking what's it called? Gaslight someone. It's like you're being a little East Coast about this.
I'm just
At the moment I get it all excitable about something, he's like, "Whoa, dude, you're East Coast."
I'm just saying, I'm trying to use different terms.
Might as well call it. That's coded language for calling me crazy.
I'm not calling you crazy. I'm saying you're being a little inside the beltway.
Oh shit!
Oh, shit.
He's calling me crazy and he's gaslighting me about it, motherfucker.
First of all, I don't think I'm gaslighting.
Yeah, you are.
I'm sensitive about. I don't want to misuse the term gaslighting.
I don't want to misuse it either. And when you tell somebody that they're fucking like, if you try to what's the word I'm looking for? If you try to dismiss what somebody's saying by telling them there's something wrong with them, that's gaslighting.
Yes, but I'm not dismissing what you're saying.
Yeah, you are. You were like, Dan, and you just dismissed what I said just now about dismissing what people saying because you're like, Dan, you're getting a little worked up, Dan. Dan, you just calm. Dan, take your pills, take your pill, take your medication. Dan, you don't want people to think you're weird, do you? You don't want people to think you're weird.
You don't take medication.
You don't want people to think you're weird.
Just as a reminder, you were the one who said you thought we needed to slow down.
And you're abusing it.
Nobody said you take medication.
You're turning it around on me. It shows how clever you are, Ireland. Judo flip, reversal, 3 points.
You have intellectually judo chopped me.
You're the one that's always flipping around on
You
people.
have flipped me for real.
Okay, back
as Benito.
Benito.
I always forget his name. Anyway. Okay.
Okay, back at the ranch.
Yes.
If you were listening to what I'm saying, which I believe you were, guys, the first thing I said was
listening. Yes. Remembering. Not sure.
When I was talking about like how people know the deal with like Klingon cloaking technology, the first thing I said was, yes, you could say as an audience, we're privy to more information than your average person there. Yeah. But my argument for why they would know these things is because of the fact that it's on display at a public museum. That's all I'm saying. I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm right.
But
I'm just saying it's suspicious.
They had a couple of birds of prey there.
Well, they had like it wasn't a bird of prey. It was the no. You're right.
Like
they had a Romulan because they had a Klingon bird of prey.
Have a Romulan.
And I think a Romulan one. They had a Klingon D7.
Klingon
cruiser.
I saw a different. I mean, there was the one that they had captured from the movies, but then there was another one that was like an old school one from like the show.
Yeah, there's a list out there. The main ones they had, of course, they had Voyager. They had the Enterprise A. Because the good old-fashioned Enterprise, the original Enterprise, got blowed up.
Right. Did the Enterprise D get exploded?
No. The Enterprise D, the star drive section got exploded. The saucer section crashed on the planet in not Druidia, but it sounds like that.
So wait,
Viridian 3 or whatever. Because but I bring this up because the general consensus is that we will see the Enterprise D again,
okay.
and that's probably what's being talked about when Alondra LaForge was telling her dad, when her dad's like, we can't help, and Alondra LaForge was like, what about Hangar Bay 12?
Okay.
And everyone's like, well, it's got to be something special if it's in like the hidden inside part. And what are we talking about here? We're talking about Picard and Geordi and Worf
Unless
and
she
all
was
this.
just talking about the.
So
cloaking
presumably
device.
Geordi's fixed up the old Enterprise D, maybe giving it a new star drive section or something.
That would be totally Geordi.
and that's going to be the next cool thing that happens probably as we get to see that action.
Well, so the Defiant, which is the NCC 1764, the New Jersey, which was NCC 1975.
All right, so
That's a. That's
And then
a
they
new
call
one.
it. And then they call it Kirk's Enterprise, which is the original, which is your good old
But it was
NCC.
still just the A. It was
NCC
the A.
1701A.
which we only saw in Star Trek 5 and 6. And
Right,
then
so
it was
but they call it
decommissioned
Kirk's
after
Enterprise,
6.
which is interesting because on the Star Trek website it calls it the Kirk's Enterprise, and we know the Star Trek website is not your
What's the other one? Pikes.
Star Trek's website. The Star Trek website is like a promotional website.
Yeah.
It doesn't
You
have
mean
the most.
StarTrek.com?
Yeah, StarTrek.com.
Big Star Trek?
Yeah, it's
People who are just funneling money into our bank accounts.
That one is
into
more-
our mid-Atlantic bank accounts.
that website.
Coastal elites.
That website is less about providing Star Trek information, more about like getting people into like it's promoting Star Trek because they call it Kirk's Enterprise. Like whereas on Memory Alpha they'd give like the actual number and shit like that. So Kirk's Enterprise is a weird name that they added for promotional reasons, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
And the new-
it is a weird thing to call it.
As Jesse
I was
noted,
caught off by that.
the New Jersey is a made-up one, and the 1975 is where I think it was Terry Metalis was born.
That
and,
was
and he's
the,
from New Jersey. So,
so
that's
that was
the-
he's like the showrunner, right?
And that's probably because they wanted to have a TOS version of the Constitution class, but they couldn't have the Enterprise because that was blown up.
And that's a believable name that they would name a
Yeah,
starship after.
so you got-
a
you got the New
state.
Jersey.
That's a classic sort of ship name.
Now
The Defiant is the second Defiant, right? So this Defiant is the Sao Paulo, and the original Defiant had a cloaking device. The second Defiant didn't. So it's good that they got the cloaking device from the HMS Bounty from
That's
Star
the-
Trek 4.
That's the Defiant from Deep Space Nine.
The Defiant from Deep Space Nine, there were two of them because one of them got messed up. So it's the point is that they know their lore. They know that because they could have gotten that more recent cloaking device from the Defiant.
And more.
If they. Yes. All right. Yes. Yes, you are.
Okay. Well,
Do you know what else they had there though?
they had so Jack is all like, I'm an expert on this shit, and she's like, what's this? He's like, oh, that's a that, and that's a that.
What's this?
And
What's
this?
this?
Yeah, and then he saw
Excelsior.
and then he saw the Voyager, and he saw Voyager.
Yeah, that's right. They did have the Excelsior, the original.
He saw Voyager, and he was like, what's that piece of shit? And she's like, oh my
No,
god.
he said it was a nice ship. He didn't say what's
He was
that
like,
piece of
he's
shit.
like, fuck that ship.
Nobody would say that's
No,
a piece of shit.
he didn't know what it was, and then you'd think, I mean,
It's a nice looking ship.
It's like,
It's a more recent vintage.
but it's like probably one of the most famous starships in that it like went the farthest out. I'm not blaming any. I'm not. this isn't a criticism
It
of the
is-
show.
I get- I get-
It's
I
just
get what
kind
you're
of. It's
saying.
just kind of.
I get what you're saying.
It's just noting. It's like you little shit. You
it
didn't
would
know what
be
the Voyager
famous.
is.
It would be famous.
One would expect.
And
Yeah.
it's like imagine being 7 of 9 who
It's like the Wright brothers. or
imagine
something.
being 7 of 9 who this shit changed her. This was her life. This
Yeah,
ship, and this
right.
guy's like, what the fuck is that? You know.
He's like, you little-
He's like, it's a nice ship.
We
It's an-
do need to take a break.
Okay.
So we want
but-
to talk about 7 of 9 and her business with
Okay.
the
We're
Voyager.
talking
I
more about
wanted.
the museum.
I did want to mention though what I was arguing before that you were saying. You both have a different opinion, which is fine. I was saying when she was saying, it's my understanding that you have to decloak to beam. Yes, I was thinking that they put that line in there as an explanation to the audience.
Sure.
It's like the line.
Sure, you
it's
gotta
like when
do
Worf was like, many of Section 31's most nefarious table scraps, it would seem, and Riker was like, Section 31. Worf's like, critical division of Starfleet intelligence, and Riker's I fucking know that. That line interchange was for the
that's
audience.
exposition.
That's for the exposition.
And it's acceptable in appropriate amounts and when you're trying to draw in new audiences and people who wouldn't necessarily be aware of all that stuff. It can go overboard. I think they usually do a pretty good job of it here. All right. So we will take a quick break.
Quick break.
quick
break.
And then when we return,
When we were doing.
we'll be right back.
we're going to even be more chill than before.
yeah.
Totally.
And then we will continue talking about Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 6, The Bounty. Be right back.
And we'll be back.
All right. We are now back.
Back.
We have returned.
Seriously?
Yes, Commander Riker. Captain
reals.
Riker. Yes, Captain Riker. We have returned.
I don't understand the world anymore.
It's not that complicated, sir. We take brief breaks because we have determined...
Friendly energy. He was talking about being friendly.
Determined through science that it is best for everyone involved if we had
Or I'm gonna die.
at least the illusion of a break in our sort of coastal elite, East Coast, Atlantic, inside the Beltway style of
snap.
riff-raffing about Star Trek. So it's
And your kin. 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 And your kin.
That reminds me, I've got a.
does it now? It's like
I reminded myself of
one
something.
of those gags. I'm going to do something.
Boy,
And I'm going to say I was reminded about something.
I was, yeah, I set it all up.
Spoken like a true LaForge.
That's what I'm going to say every time I say something clever. I'm going to play this.
Spoken like a true LaForge.
It's like I'm complimenting myself. Speaking of complimenting yourself, remember when Jack was all like talking about how wise he was?
Yes.
When he was like, and I know it was supposed to be, it was a touching
It's
scene.
like you.
It was like a touching scene where he's like, I'm mostly carrying ostentatiously principled, I hope, and occasionally clever. And he's like, these are what I get from my mom. But you know what I get from my dad? I'm far wiser than I have any right to be. It's like humble brag, you know. Not even a humble brag.
He also
just a
says
brag.
brave, which I know what he's trying to say, but I know Beverly is pretty fucking brave.
Yeah.
They
had to come up with
It's
something.
not just that that Beverly's not like sort of cowardly or anything. Like, it would call her brave. Loyal, it's different because Beverly, I think you could say she's loyal too, but she does have those principles, and her principles will, I think, supersede her loyalty. Whereas that might be the opposite case of some other folks, if you catch my meaning. I guess loyalty is a principle. Yeah. Okay.
Actually,
What was that?
Actually, if we want to play a short game, if we have time for now, if we want to hold that off later.
How about this? Let me just, because
Hey.
I do desperately want to conclude just from the
of course.
previous thing.
Of
The
course.
one thing that we should mention is the other ship that was there, because I
Yes.
think a lot of people haven't noticed it yet.
Yes.
Is
Oh.
a lot of people were like, why didn't you have the Enterprise from Enterprise?
have the Enterprise?
Why didn't you have the NX-01? Oh,
I can't tell if
Was
you're
that there?
Jimmy Stewart or
Yeah,
fucking
it's like Jimmy Stewart.
or fucking what's his name,
Y'all-
Barney Fife.
Y'all savings and loan. Y'all savings and loan.
Donuts.
Andy,
I'm in a movie where I'm gonna kill myself.
Andy.
Hey, Andy.
Right.
He really whopped her
Kill
good
myself.
this time.
Well, to avoid any lawsuits or criticisms for my impersonations, I'll just declare I was doing neither of those. I was doing a generic,
He made up a guy.
goofy voice, but
Goofy American fellow.
and in fact, they did. In fact, they did have the NX-01 Enterprise. They had an even better than that. They had the refit version.
Oh, shit.
Now, what
Seriously?
yes, seriously, Captain Riker.
Seriously, right.
Because at the end of Enterprise, when Enterprise was unceremoniously canceled after the 4th season, which is where it had just finally gotten on its toes and it was being all extra awesome, they canceled the show. There were plans, supposedly, and maybe this is apocryphal, maybe it's not, but it's regardless, it's real now. There were plans to do a refit perhaps in the season 5 of Enterprise, where they were going to add a little belly, like a little engineering section to the NX-01
Little belly.
to make it look more like the Constitution class, etc. Make it look more like the quote unquote modern version of the starships that would come after it, with the belly and the saucer section, and then the nacelles on the pylons. And so that design was created and has been passed around the internet for many years, and
That's
now
my idea.
and now they have it. They have it in this museum, that version of it, because that would make sense if that had proceeded as it would have been expected to proceed. Then they would have done that upgrade, and so that's the current state of the ship. And that's all I wanted to say about that.
I don't understand the world anymore.
It would have been funny if they had like the Cerritos at the Fleet Museum.
I want to see a live action Cerritos,
Yeah.
so I'm hoping we get an opportunity to see that.
Isn't that going to be in Brave New Strange.
No, because the Strange New Cerritos is modern era, not modern. It's like the Picard era. So Cerritos is like,
but there's like the crossover episode.
oh yeah, that's right. But we don't know what parts are going to be
we don't-
live action and what parts are going to be animated. That's a good point. Yeah, they are doing the Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds are doing a crossover episode in season 2 of Strange New Worlds that everyone's very excited about. So, okay. Now, Dan,
Anyway,
you had
that's
mentioned something about a game. I had mentioned something previously about talking about the very touching scene with Seven, but I'm happy to postpone that till later in the podcast.
Let's play a game.
So we can play your, as you put it,
One of your
a
games.
little game.
Play one of your little
I'm a
games.
big fan of your little games. I'm a big fan of your games, large and small. Quite honestly,
Even your big long games.
your big games.
That
I mean,
sneak up on us.
yeah.
It's called Name the Context Based Upon a Small Portion of the Line.
Oh,
Okay, can you say that again? What's the title of this game?
Name the context based upon the short portion of the line.
That's excellent. What's this? Do you have like a slogan?
that's a good title.
We play a short part of the line, and you listen to it, and you get it too, and you want to guess what it's part of.
I didn't say a jingle. I said a slogan. Do you have a slogan?
We got the line if you got the time.
Okay.
Oh no!
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Sincerely, Patrick.
This sounds problematic.
Okay, there's only 3 questions.
Oh,
Okay, now I'm gonna play 3.
One, a two, a three. That's how many licks it takes to get to the bottom of a Tootsie Pop.
Right. 1, 2, 3.
Hey, you know what's really hilarious about Tootsie Pops? Fucking gross, man. Tootsie Rolls are
they're
gross.
kind of funky.
You know what's good? Blow Pops.
Yeah.
Blow Pops with bubble gum.
It's much
Bubble
better.
gum that tastes good. None of this Tootsie Roll bullshit.
Because there's that in between stuff where the bubble gum's got the bits of candy.
Yes.
chomping away.
And then you bite into it. You
Oh,
bite into it. It is like biting into gum with glass in it.
With
Tasty
glasses.
sugar
Bits of
glass.
glass.
My guns with glasses.
All right. So now we've done the Blow Pop Tootsie Pop talk, and we're
Totally.
ready for
Back to
the
Star
little
Trek.
game about context.
It's called Name the Context Based Upon the Small Portion of the Line.
And
Give
the
us the
slogan
shit,
is,
dude.
what's the slogan again, just to remind us?
We got the line if you got the time.
Okay.
That's misleading.
I do, and I will say, I honestly, sincerely hope that the audience has the time.
Okay, well, if they don't, tough shit.
Yeah.
Turn us the fuck off then.
I guess
Okay,
so.
see? Hey, Dan, I don't want to get into this whole gaslighting thing
Oh,
again.
Now you're just making
But
fun.
that was very. We're the right hand coast, I suppose. The right hand coast. I'm just trying to come up with other terms other than
it's not the
East
left
Coast
coast.
or Mid Atlantic. No, the left coast is the
Yeah,
is
the
the
left
is
coast
the
is the other
Pacific
coast.
Northwest folks and the California folks.
Clearly, yes.
We're the coast of darkness and or
Oh, man, the Pacific
dimness,
Northwest.
dim raininess and
The
sadness.
PNW
Humidity,
is
yeah.
is great for a person like me. You know what? I like moss. I like moss. I like green stuff.
Oh yeah.
And the Pacific Northwest that's just all over the fucking place.
Yeah.
It's,
Pretty
everything's
green here. It's
moist.
just not as moss.
I
all
love
the
all the-
buildings are made of wood.
I love all the rolling hills and the trees. I like that you can't
Yeah.
see too far because there's a bunch of
mountain-
trees
bunch
in
of
your
mist.
way. Yeah.
And then you can be driving down the road and you have to stop because there's like a whole flock of Goonies.
flock of Goonies.
There's a flock of Goonies crossing the road and you're just about like,
Moose.
oh, I'm like going to be 30 minutes late to work because it was a big fucking flock of Goonies. The opening music to the Goonies is one of the best openings to any movie.
Okay, we got the line if you got the time. We're gonna
Lay it on me,
Okay,
Dan.
you have to guess the context based upon the small portion of the line.
Give me
Ready?
the context.
Question 1.
Burgled.
Burgled. Burgled.
Burgled.
All right, so we're guessing the
Yeah.
context. We know when Jesse and I have just seen this episode multiple times, so we know exactly when that line happens and what it's about. So what exactly are you quizzing us on? Because you said guess the context.
What's it about? What's going on in that scene?
But you mean when Picard?
They're gonna go to the day
Yeah,
store.
he's talking about burgling.
Yeah,
And Riker's like, that's a great use of the word.
Yeah, there you go.
And it really is.
That was a
It is.
softball.
It was somewhat out of character for Riker. I thought it was a funny
And
joke. It just sort of threw me
It
off
was
a little.
weird that he said it.
Yeah,
Why
it was
was
weird.
Riker all into like?
But it was true.
complimenting
His grammar, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and he all said it nicely. It was
Yeah.
all burger.
Well, I don't have Riker's line, but here's it in more context.
So we burgled the
Burgle.
very institution.
Oh, that's
hunting us.
the other thing we should try.
Yeah.
We should try. Here's what I'm
Not
proposing.
talking over your sound clips playing.
That's one thing I want to try.
We should try it. All
we
right,
should
let's
try
give it a try.
to see if it's because I don't know if it's funnier to talk while it's happening or wait for responses after it's over.
I think sometimes
Let's
it's
find
funny,
out.
sometimes it's maddening to the audience. Now let's give it a try. You play a tape, and Jesse and I will
Play a
attempt. Yes, and we'll attempt to not speak over it.
Okay.
All right.
So we burgled the very
God, you did that on purpose.
hunting us.
You're eating up all this time. This is showtime.
So we
Showtime is now
Man.
available on Paramount Plus. You can on the menu at the beginning, the unskippable commercial at the beginning says you can get Showtime now on Paramount. Fuck you, Paramount Plus. I mean, I love that you're providing the Star. Look, I love this. Look, I love the
You're
Star Trek.
opposite of trying.
I'm happy. I just want to make it clear. I'm happy Paramount Plus is putting out all the Star Trek. We watch all the Star Trek. That's great.
Just for the record, I've been keeping my mouth shut.
It's just the commercial thing is driving me fucking nuts, and the as is the low resolution garbles. But we needn't press on about that.
That's my idea.
Let's continue with the game. All right, what's the next? You said there
I'll
were
just
3
move on to the
questions.
next one.
We've done 1. This is question number 2. Chill
Right.
style.
What's this part of?
Thank you.
Thank you. Does he say thank you? Is it somebody saying thank you?
Yes.
Am I allowed to ask a clue?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just waiting to see if Jesse's has any ideas either.
All right, what's your idea, Jesse?
Can you play it again?
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, he's saying thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So I forget, what were we supposed to do? We're supposed to guess the context?
Guess the context.
This is a line in an episode of Star Trek Picard.
You did that in a way that you knew was deceitful and misleading.
I'm not exactly sure who's saying thank you.
How narrow of the context do we need to get?
Well, do you know anything about this scene? No, you don't. I'll tell you.
No, I don't.
I'll tell you.
I'm going
Okay.
to say no, I don't.
Tell us about the scene. You're stumping me right now.
Give me.
And it's actually difficult because I didn't realize this until I recorded it and played it back. I didn't notice this.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's part of this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. And
Oh.
please, no food or beverages in the research area.
That
no
helps-
beverages or
yeah,
food in the
That helps answer a question because I thought it sounded like Data.
Yes!
But I didn't remember Data
It did,
saying
yes.
that in this episode. And that's
Right.
helpful because a question I had, not to, again, just careful to point out,
And-
not
and-
to disrupt your game here.
Well, no, and actually, let me play that whole sound again?
Yeah.
No one, I know it's hard.
but we're going to not talk during it. Shh, shh, shh.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. And please, no food or beverages in the research area.
You look like you're about to vomit.
Where do they put the replicator?
Patrick's mouth, Jesse, did you see Patrick's mouth? He was
No, I didn't see it.
like convulsing. Like, and his mouth was all closed off
That's
tight.
hilarious.
Like he was gonna fucking spew everywhere.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's good. It's my K Street mentality.
Okay, well, anyways, so I didn't notice that. Thank you.
K
Until,
Street Northwest.
until I played
He's gotten all the way like inside the beltway, inside the district.
Okay.
Specific like part of like the central.
You guys-
DC.
20th and K.
Jesse, we're the only professional people here. Patrick is.
No, I
He's
was going to
pushing
make
all the buttons.
I was going to make
He's,
the-
now he's
I was gonna-
professionally pushing buttons. Is what he
I
is.
That's right. I wasn't. I was about to say I was going to make a point, but I'm not. In fact, making a point. I'm asking a question, which is I was a little confused about this whole security situation because
Yes.
everyone's saying that Daystrom Institute or the Daystrom station is guarded. The central bit is guarded by this crazy, amazing AI.
Well, check out before
and you have this key to
Right.
get through it.
Well,
But it was
now,
guarded by
let
Data.
me interrupt you. Let's go. Let's nest a level further on that. Let's
Okay.
let's recap. This is last week. What Worf and Kryn said both in last
yes.
week episodes.
Yes.
Here's what Worf said.
Need I remind you that Daystrom Station is guarded by a sophisticated AI system.
Kryn said,
Daystrom Station is guarded by a highly sophisticated AI system.
You know, in Gremlins, when the Gremlins are all like, that's what Kryn sounds like.
"Yeah, he kind of does."
Daystrom
But he,
Station.
but he looks like just a fancy Vulcan, or he looks like
He looks like a badass Vulcan.
badass
Yeah,
Vulcan.
He
That's
looks like
what I
a
was
fucked
looking
up
for. Yeah,
piece of shit Vulcan.
yeah.
Fuck your shit
Okay,
up.
so go ahead.
Well, that AI system
So-
is probably this data type thing.
Well, that's
Well,
the
right.
que-
Well,
the
so I'm not
question I
done yet.
had.
I'm not done yet. Okay, so this week,
This week,
The vault itself is protected by an astonishingly lethal AI system.
And Raffi says,
Starfleet installed an insane AI to defend its deepest secrets.
It's insane.
It's astonishing, it's insane, and it's doubly sophisticated.
To be fair, in this case, Raffi only mentions the insane AI like when they start to figure out what's going on. So like they know more at that point. But again, the question I had initially watching this episode was where the data, lol, etc., where that AI started, because that part in the beginning, first of all, seemed so different. It didn't seem very data-ish until you just played that tape and blew my mind.
Yeah, that totally sounded like data,
so that's
right?
helping me answer this question, because I was like, and then the key they had, I thought there was going to be more to that key. It turns out, I guess it was just a USB port hack thing that gets you in. So I had kind of built up in my mind that there was going to be some super clever, awesome thing we were going to find out about exactly how this key works. It's not necessary for the plot in this case. But yes, that thing that you just pointed out there, that helps at least suggest that the writer's intention was that all the way out into that hallway area, the initial part, that is also an extension of the data, lol, lore, sung, etc.
Yeah, I mean, because it recognized, the people that had come aboard.
Yes, because...
And it recognized them as not a threat because it was data.
Because game recognize game.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I believe that is an aphorism used by the youth.
Yes.
Not the current youth, mind you.
The two youths.
Not the current youth. A youth from about maybe 15, 20 years ago.
So I actually...
Really?
I don't know.
So we should go back to that data subject and the AI and that whole scene. But here's question.
Data and lore mean basically the same thing.
Just different connotations, I guess.
Yeah, just different framing for the same.
Different types of thing.
Lore means data as well. Collection of information. Data
lore
is a collection
more like
of information.
Magic.
They should make a new android just called collection of information.
Data just it implies it's like more dry and not as structured or something.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it doesn't.
I don't disagree.
Okay, so we should go anyway. So this is the third one.
Number 3.
Oh yes, that's right. We're still playing this very little game.
This vague little game. Is that what you?
No, I said very little game. Vague little game. There's
game.
nothing fucking vague about this shit.
Okay, if we got the time,
the degree of specificity is high.
If we got the line, if you got the time. Question 3.
Dad? Dad? Is that Lindsay? Is that
Lindsay?
Dad?
Who's Lindsay?
Sydney.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Do you know that context?
No.
Hold on. Play it again. Yes, I do know the context, but I'm not going to tell you.
Oh.
Okay, you both missed that. Well, you both get a half point.
Okay.
This is the
because we knew it was
I don't
Lindsay,
deserve any points.
we knew it was Lindsay.
It was Lindsay.
Lindsay LaForge.
I know, right?
And you, stay away from my daughter.
That was rough.
We're gonna have to do this
yeah.
on the fly.
That's now I remember. That was good.
So you could
It
tell.
was silly. It was cliched, but it was good because the actors are awesome.
Jordy is totally chasing people's daughters, dude. Come on.
Well, he was gonna.
You make him seem like a predator.
He was.
He kind of was a hollow predator.
He likes to chase the holographs. He's like, don't chase my daughter until you date her hologram.
There was
first.
a couple of not cool things.
Holograms?
Holograms? Chief O'Brien.
Holograms.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I still say that I think the
Bilana's on it.
Shadow Play episode's one of our better episodes.
I'll have to re-listen to it.
Listen to that.
I don't doubt that it's good. It's just
a purely subjective thing.
Yeah.
Granted, I grant you that.
You grant me that.
What about the other stuff at the Daystrom station? Like that, like Riker saw something and he didn't say what it was, but he looked, like he was a little.
Well,
bit
there was the Genesis
funky.
device.
Was that just the Genesis device?
Let's list a few
Is that
things.
what that was?
There was a few things. What?
But wait.
He looked at it and he looked back at it as he walked away. That was the Genesis.
Okay, so this is going back to question question 2 the whole time in the Daystrom. Quickly, I just wanted to say I could tell that Jack and Sydney are gonna have a thing, right? They're gonna totally have a thing.
I hope
right?
so.
They look like they're gonna have a thing.
I hope so. That would be hot stuff.
When Sydney saw her dad and was all like, "Sir," to her dad, Jack looked at her and it was all like he likes her. And then when he's talking about her being a good pilot, that was really when. And then Alanis.
Yes. Yes,
Atlantis.
Alondra
was all like, "Put your phaser in your pants," or whatever she said. I don't put your phasers on stun. I don't know what she said.
Right, something like
but it
that.
seems like Sydney and Jack might have something going. Which wouldn't that be great? Like Geordi and Geordi.
That'd be great.
Jordan. Wouldn't that be great, you guys?
Sounding like a mom.
Wouldn't that be just great?
Wouldn't it be great if our kids
Geordi
got
and
together?
Picard could
They're all like-
have grandkids together.
It's always that kind of funny thing. It's like, hey, wouldn't it be great if, like, we're friends? Wouldn't it be great if our children got married and had sex with each other and made babies? Just squirted out a bunch of babies. Squirted out a bunch of babies.
I'm being deadly serious.
Oh, yes, deadly serious indeed.
Okay, so let's go back, Jesse, like you said. Thank
Genesis,
you.
okay.
To the Daystrom, like you were saying.
Okay.
They're walking through, and before everything got freaky.
Riker's looking at the Genesis device.
Well, he's looking. There's a few things. I don't know
There's
exactly
something.
what you're referring to because, but we can list things that we know were there.
There's the first thing he looks at. He's talking about this is where they keep all the goodies or something, and he looks in at something, and he doesn't say anything, and then he like walks away, and then he like looks back.
Well, there's a couple of like big ticket items, and then there are some smaller ticket items. One of the things was, I believe, it looked like the device. I think it was the device that Shinzon used to kill the Romulans or something. I think it was related to Nemesis. There was some little device there. That's a lower stakes thing. They also had one of those Borg things. I always forget what it was called. It was called like the ventibulator or something.
The ventibulator.
It's a thing that's in the Borg cubes. I think we first introduced.
Is it in the Borg spheres?
I don't know. I think it's in the cubes. It's like in Voyager. I think.
Which is better, a cube or a sphere?
In the cubes.
It depends on the application.
Yeah.
I guess the sphere, it would be good because they're all equidistant from each other, but the cube is more economical with space.
Okay. The other things we see in there,
equidistant from the center.
We see an attack dribble, which was fun.
Oh, yeah.
We see Captain Kirk's body from Generations, and two things about that. Sharp-eyed folks on the internet with a capital I determined that the text for Captain Kirk's body, it reads at the bottom something Project Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Oh, okay, that was.
And the
Captain
phoenix in mythology being the bird that dies and comes back to life.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with mythology, you may be familiar with Harry Potter.
I'm familiar with that,
which has a phoenix in it too. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix.
Has a phoenix
and Dumbledore has a phoenix.
Has a phoenix in it.
But anyway, those books are not terribly interesting.
Arizona's got a phoenix.
Go read the original myths. But the other interesting thing about the Kirk's body thing is if you listen real carefully.
Kirk's body.
I'm saying Kirk's body, not Kirk's corpse, even though that has an alliteration and is fun to say, Kirk's corpse. I'm saying his body because
it's two different letters.
If you listen closely, if you catch your ears up real close to the speakers, you hear the little TOS like boop boop boop. The medical beeps and boops.
The medical tricorder.
Which indicates. It implies, it suggests that that the body is alive.
That's wild, dude.
And they talk about Project Phoenix bringing him back to life. Maybe he's still alive. Maybe they brought him back. Who knows? Something's going on there.
Far out.
We do see Admiral. Of course, the big thing at the end of the episode is that we see Admiral Picard's gross dead body.
Yeah, that was
that's like a proper corpse.
Okay, like this episode was full of things that I wasn't really expecting.
Yes,
and this was like at the end, it was just like, yeah, well, that's just the biggest thing I wasn't expecting. They're just going to take
all
his remains,
and it was even bigger than seeing Data.
Yeah, I know.
You're already surprised by Data, and then Data, and the way they presented his Data's all glitching out, being like Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah,
Jean-Luc Picard.
It's like, wait a minute,
and they all think he's like, oh, he's all.
What's he talking about?
He's all googled up.
So they were talking about what was more dangerous than like the portal weapon, and Shaw was basically.
They stole a weapon 10 times more deadly.
And then Picard,
because he's got Borg bits on him?
And then Picard says,
Ro believed this missing weapon to be central to the entire Changeling conspiracy.
And so the weapon that's the biggest weapon in the universe is Picard's guts, is basically what they're saying.
Yeah, his
that's
body.
His guts.
Because he's got Borg bits?
Well, okay, so they were talking about
possibility,
Jack's
Borg
aromatic. What do we know about Picard's aromatic syndrome? Like because okay, what it seems like is Jack is Jack a sleeper agent, or is he just affected by this syndrome, or is it related?
Okay.
Or wait, just let me finish my fucking thing.
I'm waiting.
Because Jack has irrimatic syndrome. Picard has irrimatic syndrome. So they want to get Jack because they're trying to bring Picard back to life, but they're missing there's missing links. So they're going to use Jack's live parts to bring Picard back. And they use the irrimatic syndrome as a way to create sleeper agents.
Okay. Maybe. I think that...
But there's something else going on with the Jack, too.
Yes, because we do know, yes, Picard, in All Good Things, found out that he had this irrimatic syndrome and that it was eventually going to cause him troubles. In Star Trek Picard Season 1, those troubles caught up to him.
I'm being deadly serious.
And he died of this at the age of 90-something, right?
But brought him back.
Everything we know about irrimatic syndrome, what we don't know is we've never heard of irrimatic syndrome turning you into a Jason Bourne person.
Right.
So I think we can assume that this is a red herring, that Jack's hallucinations are not a result, at least not a direct, like solely a result of the irrimatic syndrome. It could be that the fact that he has irrimatic syndrome opens him up to be a conduit for these hallucinations in some way. That's possible.
Maybe whatever's going on with him is disguising itself as the yakety yak syndrome.
That's another.
Well, that's what I'm
very good
suggestion. What I'm saying is that whatever it is about this irrimatic syndrome, it's like what Jack has is related to what Picard has, and that's related to why they want Picard's remains, and they need Jack to like activate those remains somehow.
Maybe I think,
and it has something to do with the irrimatic syndrome.
I think Jesse's positing that it's maybe related to Borg bits inside of Picard.
That's true.
Or being reintroduced to Picard, and that's a possibility. And one reason why I think about that is you have Captain Shaw, who's been presented as somebody who already dislikes Picard and has trauma associated with the Borg.
He was at that Wolf jank.
Yes, he was a victim of Wolf 359. You have frequent mentions from Shaw and others of saying like, oh, forget about that fake Borg shit. The real Borg are still out there. You have network ships, all Starfleet ships being networked together in a Borgish potential way. You have Jack having visions of vines encroaching that sort of symbolize with those cool sounds that Dan was able to capture and play in last week's episodes of the vines being all like that symbolizes also growing connections and things like that. So I think the Borg thing is a viable possibility.
They might be a thing in this season. Could be a thing.
Right.
We are coming up on a break.
Time to take a break.
Real soon. So
wait, you were talking about this sound.
Yes. Yeah. I like it.
So,
it sounded brief, like it sounded behind that sound. It sounded like somebody was playing racquetball.
Yeah, because they were having fun. They had to have fun. Have you ever heard of the hypothesis? And I'm not speaking for or against the validity of this hypothesis, but some people have hypothesized that learned traits can be passed genetically. So, meaning like we have the idea that
it's like Lamarckian,
your
Lamarckian style genetics.
Your hair, your nose size is passed genetically or whatever. Very simplistically, that's like okay, fine. But like, let's say you learned a trait, like how to play an instrument. There's hypotheses that some of those learned traits can make their way into your genetics.
If your parents are dumbasses, and you passes on,
and you pass to it can pass to your child. Now, I'm not saying that that's true or not true. I don't know.
Very, very, very poorly supported hypothesis.
I've heard it. I don't know if anyone else has ever heard this hypothesis.
Yeah, no, there's a whole. I believe it's Lamarckian style genetics, which believes in that. Now, the modern version that does have support is there's the epigenetic factor, but that's not you learn plumbing and then your son knows how to use plumbing. It's more about environmental factors that can point things in a certain direction.
Well, let's go with that one then. Let's say, and what if like Jack has some Borg in him because Picard was Borg, and so Picard passed some of that Borg onto Jack.
He's got Borg sperm.
Last week, yeah, exactly. We were mentioning the nanites and Borg nanites and his little sperms, possibly.
Little nanites and his little Jackie sperms.
Well,
I
never thought about that until now, but I guess that could be a thing.
Yeah, it could be.
I'm being deadly serious.
Yeah, it's deadly serious.
I'm sure this guy's been deadly serious the whole damn time.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Another one, please, landlord.
Is that what they call bartenders in England? Landlords?
Another one, please, landlord.
Maybe.
If he's the keeper of the house.
Is that what a real raucous British guy? Is that what they call them? Raucous British guys?
Raucous British guys.
Like street toughs. What do they call street toughs in England?
No, it's not. I was gonna. It's not bogans. That's Australian. No, it's chavs, right? Chavs.
I'm not gonna go there.
Yeah, none of us are gonna go there.
I made you go there.
Oh, you.
It takes too long to get there.
Yeah, it does take a long time.
It takes too long to get there podcast.
That'd be great. Let's go on a long. Let's go to Tokyo and just have a podcast that's 14 hours long on
Tokyo. Well, then from Tokyo, like Australia isn't that far, so then we can go to Australia from
absolutely.
Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be as bad.
I would be excited.
From New Jersey to Tokyo, raise your hand.
I don't know about from New Jersey.
I think that's how the line goes.
Simmer down now. Simmer down now.
I believe this is the mainframe.
All right, Worf, we got you. It's all
The
good.
mainframe.
Yeah, we can all see the same thing you're seeing, Worf. Okay? All right. We will be right back.
And we'll be back.
And we're back.
Okay. By order of Jesse, we have returned.
Sometimes I get to call it.
Yeah, you do.
Every now and
Totes nodes.
I exercise restraint.
Data. Let's talk about data and lore and whatever. I mean,
whatever this thing is.
For ease of use, we'll probably say data. I guess you could call it data lore, but they said there were bits of lol, possibly bits of Sung in there because he at one point says Sung. Main point number one is that Brent Spiner, I think, is having the time of his life getting to do this because he always loved playing multiple roles, and now he's getting to play multiple roles inside the same person.
Yeah.
Jumping back and forth, even including the super goofy B4, which I always found almost an offensive caricature.
That was another thing I didn't see coming. I mean, we knew that there was some kind of data-like character was going to be on because he was on the picture.
Yeah.
I guess everybody assumed it was going to be lore because that was the other, the outstanding character.
Yeah, exactly.
And lore.
And he's got lore in him somehow. But there's just this weird thing. I certainly wasn't expecting this thing, especially not at the Daystrom station.
And not only that,
my shit was blown.
Spiner also got to play Alton Sung in the recording. So he got to play multiple versions.
What do you feel about the line when he's all like, because evolution is not an act of preservation, it's addition. He seems like he editorialized that quite a bit.
Yeah, a bit. And I don't think it technically, I don't think you quite square in there.
It was just a weird statement that it's like I kind of knew what they were saying, but at the same time.
By the way, we don't have to actually agree with him because he is crazy scientist.
He's a rogue scientist.
All the Sungs are weird.
It's one of those lines where it's like when you don't analyze it, it's like, sure, I get what he's saying, but then you analyze it, you're like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
That one guy that was making people, that guy was real fucked up.
Yeah.
The guy from the previous season.
Yeah.
It requires
a great deal of data.
Oh, man.
Yes, but all the information is there, the data is there, the lore is there. But it was also amusing that they had Alton Sung add in that little bit where he was like, and in this time when I'm making data, I'm making him in an old man's body. That's going to make him wise, and that's why he's old. It's not to save on special effects costs.
No.
Totally fine. I respect why they did that. I'm glad they called it out.
Well, I like they also called out both Raffi and Picard.
I thought Data died twice.
He did.
I watched Data die twice.
Yeah, like
Data the android.
Yeah, they just like they're calling it out, just like, didn't he fucking die already?
Yes. Picard
and
had
then
all
Data
those...
died in the second time because he wanted to die to be human, but now he's human for a different reason. He's a cyborg now, basically.
And
what Data is.
And Picard had all those data demons that he worked out in the first season, and like he's got this shit like back in his face.
Right,
again.
he's got to bring up all this.
Honestly,
old
this
shit.
is just something you're going to deal with in the digital era with AIs that you can copy and paste.
Data's always going to pop up.
Because
it's Data.
You can just
you're gonna cry.
You got your old recycle bin, and you just revert the file back. Take it out of the recycle bin before you empty the recycle bin.
Yeah,
always Data, but no spots.
Oh, that I was talking about how this episode is confusing. The Moriarty shit was kind of confusing. It was weird.
I thought
it was weird.
I thought it was neat.
It was
and I didn't know how they were going to put Moriarty, and this was also an unexpected way to use Moriarty.
And he had his own catchphrase and everything.
I knew
I think
that's his thing. Yeah.
Therefore, I am.
That was his catchphrase. That's like, here comes the devil.
But I thought it was
think,
cool.
Therefore, I am.
I liked seeing him. I liked seeing the character of Moriarty. I was a little sad that it wasn't the actual Moriarty that we know from Ship in a Bottle and from Elementary Dear Data.
I kind of interrupted you, Jesse, with my sound effect, with his catchphrase. What were you saying?
Well, I didn't know how they were going to actually apply Moriarty. We knew he was coming, and I just didn't know what. So this was another unexpected thing. And yeah, it wasn't like the actual the Moriarty, and Riker was like, well, wait a minute, this isn't the actual Moriarty. But I still thought it was neat.
It was neat. It was confusing.
I thought it was cool.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was still a cool use of the Moriarty concept.
So it was okay. So before I start on this, which will only take a minute, hopefully.
Okay, all right. Buckle up, folks.
It starts before I want to say it ends with Riker saying that Moriarty wasn't hunting them all along. So, but what it appeared is Moriarty's chasing them with a gun as a security measure. Like, and I was thinking, well, if this was done by Starfleet, it would be a ridiculous security measure. If Starfleet had like a holographic Moriarty, I know it's Data is actually the one, but even for Data, like making a Moriarty run around as a security measure is just comical. Now, if this was done by Data to encrypt data, which is what it seems to be, is like Moriarty was used to encrypt data, and like they knew the code to decode it.
Right.
Then
only Riker knows.
But then why is he chasing them with a gun? Even though and Raffi was even just like, we better run away because those are real rounds. Yeah. Now, either Raffi was wrong about those being real rounds, or
it was blowing up the glass behind them.
Right. So why is he fucking chasing them around with a gun?
I have an answer that I think may work within the context of the information we've been provided. And I also hope to amuse you with my very incorrect assumptions that were going on the first time I was watching this episode.
Okay.
So first, the answer.
All right.
To the question that you posed. I believe that what we're meant to understand is that data security program, it's in place, normally works just fine. What threw it off in this case was what Riker was saying, that the data subconsciously, the data lore, all of them recognized Riker and Worf. And we're like, wait a second. This is not random jabronis breaking in.
Right. These guys shouldn't be threats.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So he didn't figure it out till later.
So I think his subconscious was like, my job is to do this, but I'm holding back in a sense.
But why did he use fucking Moriarty? Then
I think that's
he wanted to make sure it was really Riker.
No, but I'm saying like, if Data had a security measure in place, why was that security measure even like, let's say he didn't know who they were.
I don't think it's Moriarty for everybody. I think that's what we're supposed to understand.
Right.
Yeah. So why was it for them if he knew they weren't? If he knew they were Riker and Worf, would know they weren't a threat. So why would he?
It was in the beginning. It showed him he was like whatever the security system was customizing the response. The security measures.
That's what gets to my.
I still don't understand why he would.
Well, how about this?
He's the security measure.
Let me tell you how
so he wouldn't send it shit after them because they're good guys.
But he wasn't these. He was one of these. So, okay, let me tell you. Let me tell you what my comical misinterpretation was when we were first seeing this scene. And first, what happens is, there's the crow. We see the crow, and then we start hearing notes.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a whole sound thing of that.
Yes, and so I thought initially that what the AI security system was doing was, as Jesse suggested, that it was customizing things for the people who were there.
Specifically
Riker. That for Riker, what it was doing was it was mocking him about the inability to play the song Nightbird. And that the notes, before they got enough notes to know that it was Pop Goes the Weasel, I thought they were going to be the notes that Riker was going to be like, E flat. He's like, that's the one I could never get.
That's believable because like all of a sudden like Riker's just like calling out pitches that he hears and you're like, well, wait a minute, he couldn't get that one song.
And I was wondering if he was going to start like grasping his head and going mad because he's like, I can't go on because I could never get through the Nightbird song.
And that bird sort of coming back and it's like squawking at him.
Now it turns out I was incorrect about the specifics, but I think broadly the idea is that the security program was attempting to customize it for the people's who
And
came
then
in.
and then somewhere along the line, Data realized, oh, this is configuring it.
Now, we
bullshit.
can resolve a lot of our sort of frustration and confusion by just sort of accepting the fact that they wanted to have Moriarty because they thought it'd be cool and shunt it aside.
Shunted.
All right, play some of them audio clips.
Okay, so
But chill, but play them in a chill,
bro.
Oh, I forgot to
fashion.
be chill.
Yes, I know all of us have been
Let's
a little.
We're doing a lot better though.
We
Let's
are
cool
doing
it, man.
and everyone's going to complain. Everyone's going to be like, "What the fuck, man?
You guys weren't crazy.
You didn't like yell at each other." And
Yeah,
nothing.
right.
I mean,
Well,
we
we'll-
yelled at each other a little
Well,
bit.
if people complain, then we will.
You said I was gaslighting you. And then you
I've said that before.
Then you started waving your hands around and screaming.
Well, you were. I was waving my hands around and screaming, and you were.
All right.
Is this uncomfortable now?
No, not. It's not yet sufficiently uncomfortable
If
to be
people-
entertaining.
If
You
people
should try to pee on us. Just try to pee everywhere.
just pee everywhere.
Pee on a podcast.
That was your new like weird thing. It's like Dan's a great guy. He has this one little quirk. He might try to pee on you.
Do you ever like get an intrusive thought about like you're eating dinner with grandma and you wonder what would happen if you got on the table and started peeing everywhere? What would she do?
I like that even in your intrusive thought, it's what would she is like putting the responsibility on her.
just on
How
your
would she
grandma.
react?
Yeah.
Not what is my bizarre behavior.
No. What would she do?
When was the last time any of us had a living grandmother?
I haven't had.
That's a good question.
I haven't had that specific intrusive thought.
I do sometimes at a formal dinner. So if the audience,
You're like at the White House.
I can dig it, man.
If the audience
dinner.
doesn't like our more chill attitude, because we're so chill this episode, if they don't like it,
You're gonna freak the fuck out.
no, we will have data for.
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
We will have data for science, and we will then say like, okay, well, as it turns out, it was better when we were crazy, and we'll know, and that's science.
And then we will adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
And that's science.
Because evolution of the podcast is additive. It's addition. We just keep adding
It's
things
not
to the
evolution.
podcast.
It's additive.
Modification.
Yeah, it's additive. Yeah, and so like we can sacrifice the quality of one episode as long as one greater is better than the few. What's
there
that
will be
Spock always
many.
says?
There will be many episodes.
The good of the many
Yeah.
outweighs the good of the
Yeah,
one.
in this case,
The good
in
of
terms
the-
of
Or the
podcast.
good of the few or the one.
Okay, here's a tone.
Granted, Star Trek took the position opposite to that.
Here's the compilation of all the tones, not counting the song at the end.
Okay.
It's 25 seconds long. Let's see if we can do it.
Oh yeah.
What was that? Go! Go! Dead.
B flat, D flat. C sharp, A flat.
Okay, so we want to go to the part where Riker was calling out the tones. So that was all those tones.
Do we want to do that?
Yes, we do.
Jesse, do you want to do that?
Do you want to do that?
I mean, I'm fine with it if you are.
Yeah, let's see where this guy's
Okay.
going to take us.
Yeah, I just.
What was that?
F sharp, I think.
He was right. It was F sharp. I did it. I did.
What do you mean you did it?
I
You-
mean, I played this.
What are you talking about?
You got a tuner
did it.
out? You played it on the piano?
I did a tuning thing. I did it, you guys.
Marty, you made it.
Marty, you made it.
Marty, you made it. I did it. It's the Libyans.
Okay, so here's the second one. That one of them I didn't. The first one I didn't play in the compilation. Here's was in the compilation when he goes
Dead.
B flat, D flat.
First was right. It was B flat, but the second was
No, it went down, didn't it?
The second
Yeah,
one.
that's what I'm saying. The first was right, B flat, but the second one was A flat.
Yeah.
He said it was B flat, D flat, which would be going up, but it went.
It would be up a
but if
minor
you-
third.
Yeah, what he said would be going up a minor third. But listen to this.
Dead.
That's
B
going-
flat,
Yeah.
D flat.
that was going down
Yeah.
to a A flat.
Major second.
So I guess they just redid something, bad ADR. But then
That
one
is weird.
Then this one, which is also notable.
C sharp, A flat.
Which is technically correct, but you'd probably either say D flat, A flat, or you'd say C sharp, G sharp to stay in key.
That's if you're talking about usually keep it. If you're talking flats, you usually keep it flats. If you're talking
Yeah.
sharps, usually.
If I'm talking
that's how
flats,
it
I'm
goes.
usually talking Payless shoe source.
Ho! Ho!
Yeah. I don't know nothing about no music.
And so Picard has perfect pitch, right? But then listen to this. This one's 10
not
seconds.
Picard, Riker.
I'm sorry, Riker. Right, you're good call. Riker is perfect
Picard's
pitch.
all like. Blah, blah, blah.
So this is Mr. Riker with perfect pitch.
Mr. Riker.
Listen to what he whistles at the end.
Jeepers, Mr. Riker. You can sing a good tune.
See how perfect his pitch really is at the end of this 10-second clip. That's Data. Riker changes keys.
Yeah, it is different.
The very last one. Well, one more time.
That's
Data's
because it's the current Riker and not the old Riker.
Yeah,
it's not the Encounter at Farpoint.
No,
Riker.
but the beginning tone is actually from
Encounter at Farpoint.
No, the very first tone I played. I mixed them together. I should have said that.
Okay, yeah,
So,
you're right.
So the first tone is from this episode, then the other one is from Encounter at Farpoint, and the first whistle is Data, and the one from this episode tone, and that is on point, but then Riker at the end is. He changes keys.
That's definitely a different.
And it's
key.
something that you'd expect a high quality tromboner, like Jonathan Frakes,
damn right,
would know.
But that's the thing. He was just kind of an okay trombone.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame him because I'm sure it's actually pretty hard to like get all that shit straight like when you're recording.
Data
That's
was
why
a
you
much
need
more
continuity
accomplished
people.
violinist.
You mean a continuity people?
Yeah, you need continuity people.
Like when people play instruments, they're never like pressing the finger buttons.
There's a whole
at the same
YouTube
time.
channel about that.
Oh, I bet there is.
All right.
So, anyways,
but the Encounter at Farpoint bit was wonderful. I mean, there's so much in this episode that's pure pulling at the heartstrings, nostalgia.
Yeah,
stuff.
no, it's cool.
But the thing is everyone's fan service, blah blah blah. Sometimes they use fan service as a pejorative. There's times where it's like, yeah, it can be a little annoying or it can be jarring or aggressive. And the Moriarty thing was pushing it a little because you have to work. You get confused as to why it's going on. But all the rest of it, including the Encounter at Farpoint stuff, I thought was just very well integrated, made for an excellent and exciting, wonderful episode of
Wonderful.
I totally dig it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wilbur, I'm Mr. Ed.
Oh, like,
horse is a horse, of course.
It's funny how like certain people get like the Mr. Ed shit, and certain people know Mr. Ed, and certain people don't.
Have you ever seen that cartoon on Pinwheel? It's all like, well, my name
Pinwheel.
is Simon.
And I like to do drawings.
I think that part is the
From the Saturday
Saturday Night Live Mike Myers, but the show actually has more to the song, and it's got this weird, creepy recording vibe.
I listened to that original song, I don't know, a few months back, and it was really upsetting. I didn't like it. I mean, it's good. It's high quality. It's upsetting.
We had a dark childhood.
Well, I mean, and that preceded our childhood, I think. Although it's hard sometimes because the European stuff would always have some like slightly different quality to it. When they ship it over the Atlantic to us.
Well, hello there.
Shut up.
Oh, no.
No, sorry, I was looking for the theme song, and it came to this channel called My Name is Simon.
Hello, my name is Simon. All right. Any other major points? Yes, we do. Before we finish up with our odds and ends, I did want to talk briefly about the scene with Seven talking about Voyager and being reborn.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Simon.
No, it's not even on the same page.
Welcome to the Andor series.
Oh no, it wasn't even on the same page.
That's fucking Star Wars. This is not. It's got Star Wars.
Why was it? Wasn't even on the same.
Okay,
sorry.
There's a touching
really sorry
scene. There's a
about
very
that.
touching scene
I'm fucking it all
where
up.
Jerry Ryan hit it out of the park with 7 of 9, talking to Jack about the Voyager and being reborn there and the family. And it's so sad, and you're busting in with this Simon bullshit.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. That was my fault.
But yes, that scene was every part of that scene, how it was directed, written, acted, everything. I thought it was just such a wonderful scene. It by itself, just independently, it was a great character moment for 7 of 9, sort of looking back at where she had come from and where she was sitting now.
Was told she's like, her character is totally like grown a lot, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because she was almost robotic before in Voyager, and then now she's like, and it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like they made a new character. It feels like she still feels like 7 of 9.
Yeah, and it's a sort of a natural progression of what somebody's character might evolve into as they, grow into living an independent life outside of the Borg collective, and particularly after she was rejected by Starfleet and had to go sort of find her own way with the Fenris Rangers and all this other jazz, but now finding her way back into Starfleet and sort of as Jack was saying, making the point that that was her family on Voyager, and she's now trying to find that, create a new family. She's trying to find another family to replace it. And what I thought was really good about that scene, in addition to just the scene being well put together, well acted and all that, was that we keep seeing Jack be presented with variations on the idea of the importance of connection and family, because he's presented as the rogue. I'm just going to hang out with my mom.
Rogue. I think that's the word.
And do adventure stuff, Han Solo type stuff. But clearly he has something missing in him. And part of that is something he probably didn't even want to admit to himself, but through the course of the events of this season is slowly admitting to himself the value in having that connection to other people, and specifically the idea of a found family. They're playing around with it, maybe not in a particularly sophisticated way, but they're playing around a lot with this whole, like, your genetic family versus your found family. Sydney LaForge and her father, there's a little bit of that.
Actually,
going on
I have
there.
that line right here.
They're not your family.
Yes, they are. You taught me that.
Yes.
I learned it by watching you.
Where'd you learn to smoke all that weed? I learned it from you, Dad. Dad.
A cigar box with a joint.
Yes, some 80s PSA.
Yeah,
don't do drugs.
My favorite actual part, I don't know if you have it, but my favorite part of that conversation between Lindsay LaForge,
Sydney.
Yes, between Sydney LaForge and her dad, was when he was like, "This is a job for Starfleet." She's like, "I'm fucking Starfleet."
I thought about it, but I was.
But she didn't say
overloaded.
fucking, of course.
Yeah.
But that was such a great, like, and so how quickly she said, she's like, "I'm Starfleet." Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude?
Yeah.
Don't you see this uniform? I got like red shit on.
Yeah, we need to leave that to Starfleet. That's exactly right. We need to leave that to Starfleet. I am Starfleet. That was exactly
and so
it.
is he.
Yeah,
they're all fucking Starfleet.
Yeah, well,
but it to me, it also makes sense that Geordi would be the character that has that, again. It's a slightly cliched thing, but it's a cliche because it does happen so often in reality. The person who, when they're growing up and coming of age, is going out and having adventures and saving the universe and getting into all sorts of danger and turning into blue alien shadow creatures that can't be seen by light. All this crazy stuff is happening to Geordi. Molesting holograms, all that stuff that he did.
Yeah.
And then now that he's an adult with children, he's telling
relations with junior.
He's telling his children, he's like, I want you to do what I did, join Starfleet and be an engineer. Otherwise I'm going to be annoyed at you. Oh, but by the way, I don't want you to ever get into any danger. Don't volunteer for any life-saving. Don't save the lives of anybody. Don't save the universe. I'm exaggerating here, of course, but that's the vibe. And there's a disconnect there. And again, although it was contracted into this one episode, and so the arc is a little bit aggressive, it is a good arc to see Geordi sort of learn that lesson and have that realization that he's not necessarily doing right by his daughters by being overprotective of them.
Yeah.
The personality partition's in place, so
I had that line because I thought it was funny for some reason.
But I can't completely isolate data, even with the personality partitions in place.
He says personality partitions.
The personality partitions in place. The personality partitions in place.
Oh, check out this line from Sydney.
We're phasing in and out. It's not installed correctly. I think we either need to oscillate the power resonators or adjust the reflective index.
Or they need to resonate the oscillator. Oh, shit. I fucked the joke up.
The joke is, okay,
wait, let me try.
I'm going to help you out, Dan. The joke is,
titillate an ocelot.
How do you titillate? The joke is, how do you titillate an ocelot? And the answer is, you oscillate its titsalot.
You oscillate the resonators.
Which was a joke told to us by a good old friend. And I think he might have heard it from his grandfather. But yes,
that was
how do you titillate? How do you titillate an ocelot? You oscillate its tissalot.
Well, she was saying you got to resonate the oscillators, and I was going to say you oscillate the resonators, and then I just
well, you totally fucked it up. What are you going to do?
I wish I had the sound.
It's recorded.
I wish I had a sound of a car screeching to a halt,
or like a record, record scratch.
But Patrick saved it. Patrick saved it with the tillates.
With the tits. With the tits.
I knew he was going to. I knew he was going to talk about that at some point. I knew when I brought that up, you'd bring up that joke.
But we're being, even though it's
shit.
The end of the episode. We're going to be chill about it. We're going to be chill about our odds and ends.
Quick odds and ends.
Odds and ends.
I have a couple about Worf.
Do you really?
Do you really, sir?
Do you really?
You know, I, for one, would really like to hear what you have to say about it.
You fucking asshole.
I'm trying to be chill.
Did you hear what he just said?
Say it. Say it.
He was being very Pennsylvania Avenue.
Oh, man. Okay, so.
Say it.
Dan's all,
can't even fucking think
Mr.
now.
Giggles.
Okay, so this is back at the Daystrom thing. By the way, when Riker got hit in the back with that dart, when I first saw it, I thought the dart hit him in the chest and it went out his back. And I was like, did he die? What just fucking happened? And I was
You
like,
weren't sure what happened.
I was confused,
but
but
he got fucked up.
But
oh yeah, we didn't even mention the whole Deanna getting. That's not.
Oh yeah,
that's not an odd and end.
That's just kind of.
What's the end of the episode?
Yeah, it's
And is it real Deanna? Is it changeling Deanna? Who knows?
So
That's
Riker,
what we don't
probably real.
So this is back when you were talking about when we were talking about the Tribble situation. Riker's like a mighty
Tribble situation.
A mighty Klingon taken aback by the even mightier attack Tribble. We find out Tribbles have gross suction things on the bottom.
Well, that was a genetically modified Tribble.
Oh yeah, of course.
There was some sort of experiment.
Was that in the short trek?
They didn't have the monstrous ones in the short trek.
So we're just assuming it was
the trouble with Edward.
Any kind of Tribble is menacing to a Klingon because they were actually
the Klingons didn't like them. That's
their
right.
Ecology,
which is presumably modeled on the whole in Australia, the war with the emus or whatever, the Great Emu War that the humans lost.
So that the human lost.
The humans lost.
So Patrick, are you saying that is a genetically modified Tribble just because that's the only way to explain it in the episode? Are you just making that up?
Using context clues, using my knowledge of literature. That I gained in college.
Okay, I got it.
They're in a top secret.
This guy went to college.
They're in a top secret place that's storing like Captain Kirk's body, the Genesis device, and then a regular Tribble.
Okay, fine.
It's like
fine.
Just one. Now, by the way, if the joke was that it was just stored, like Tribbles are so dangerous that they just have one store, that's a funny joke. But no, I don't think that's a joke they were making. I think they were making the genetically engineered.
I'm gonna play the sound. It's only about 30 seconds. It's funny Worf.
Okay.
It's funny Worf. It's important because it's funny Worf, and it relates to this.
All right.
Sour mead.
Chateau Picard. It is quite tart, sir.
Yeah.
I have gone into battle with lovers countless times. It can be therapeutic.
I'm not going.
That is a relief. I was practicing deceit. Breakups on my home world seldom end without the bloodshed. We will not be prey. We will be friendly energy.
Jean-Luc, do you read me?
He does not.
Book with what?
My guess, superior Klingon technology. I just said it.
So that relates.
That was pretty good. All of those were great.
Yeah, so Worf is a source of humor.
I think Michael Dorn's doing the best job of all these. Everyone's doing great, but and Riker is fantastic, especially in this episode where he's like good old fashioned Riker getting the shit kicked out of him and smiling Riker. But I really think Michael Dorn is top of his game right here.
So when Riker's talking about the attack Tribble and Worf's like, I see you still find comfort in humor in other people's discomfort, and Riker's like, you used to poke back. What happened to you? And it's like Worf is like in the first episode, Worf was sillier than ever. In the first episode, so I don't know why he's getting on Riker's case about using humor and to resolve a scenario, because that's what Worf was doing in the first episode. The difference in this episode, though, is Worf is being funny, but he's not making the jokes. In this episode, he's kind of being that brunt of the joke. Like he wasn't saying like executions are on Wednesday. This episode, he was like saying stuff, and it was that unwitting humor where it's like he wasn't trying to be funny, but his character is
right. It was more like he was back on the Enterprise.
He was yeah, kind of, yeah. And so he was.
They're getting back into their old patterns,
but
healthy and unhealthy.
But to say that Worf has no humor is inaccurate, because he's got more humor this season than he did before. Anyway, so.
All right,
I had one more thing about Worf, but we can come back to it.
Okay. Well, so when Worf boarded the Titan and everybody was
very well enunciated.
There was a reunion and Beverly Crusher just went right in and hugged him.
Yes,
and Riker was like, he's not a hugger, and he was pissed off. He was pissed off because he was jealous because he wanted to hug Worf. And he knew that he wasn't going to do it.
Yeah, I bet Worf is nice to hug
because Worf is not a hugger.
He's all meaty and warm.
He was pissed off that Beverly just went right in there and did it because he was respecting Worf's boundaries.
She didn't respect his boundaries. Yeah. She was being lovey-dovey, like, it's cute, but it's like, you got to respect someone's boundaries.
I had that written down too. That even though Worf's not a hugger, she hugged, and it's I see both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and so Riker was jealous, and that's why he had such a strong reaction.
Yeah,
he was like, he's not a hugger.
Yeah. I believe it. Worf, I mean, who wants to hug Worf more than Picard?
Yeah. I'll jump in with Seven and Raffi. We don't see much, but there's at least an acknowledgement when they come back together and get to see each other. Yeah. We'll see where their situation goes, so that's worth noting. All right, Dan, your turn.
Okay, my turn. Okay, so I want you to check out this Worf line. Check this one out.
During the war, they attacked the Federation with deception and might. And we retaliated with a Starfleet-made virus. There are scars and shame.
Scars and shame.
On both sides.
Scarves and shame.
You know what that reminds me of? That time when Picard wanted to stop the Borg,
yes.
But he didn't want to use that genocidal virus that was going to destroy the Borg because he had scruples.
It's funny that you say that.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's
for folks who aren't regular listeners. This is a thing that Dan's always bringing up.
New listeners.
He's always bringing up this business.
This is conceptual continuity.
In the I, Borg episode of TNG when Picard had the chance to commit genocide and opted not to. And I forget if Dan is pro-genocide in this case or not. I can't remember, but
I mean, I see both ways, but it's ridiculous.
He says kill them all.
I mean, it's kind of, I get it. I get the point they're making, and it's a good point, and it's a point we should all abide by. But at the same time, those Borg are fucked up, you know? I know it's not our place to say. I know that's the point. It's not our place to make those decisions.
I think it's.
But I mean, come on.
I mean, okay. I think you could have I think we have a place.
But there's a nuance here, though, where Picard says, yes, but Starfleet, blah, blah, blah. Starfleet did not give the changelings the cure, the founders the cure. It was Bashir and O'Brien who got the cure, gave it to Odo, and then Odo eventually gave it to the Dominion. So,
if Picard was involved in this decision-making process, they would have never genocided the changelings with the virus in the first place.
Yeah, it was this whole Section 31 thing. So maybe Picard doesn't know the actual truth of the story, or he's simplifying to say, well, Bashir was Starfleet, so that's good enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to say about that.
Good. I liked that the cloaking effect was the same as the Star Trek 4 one. Like it was like acutely like, let's do it old Star Trek 4 Klingon style, which was cool to see. The changeling crew, presumably we've talked a little bit about maybe they're diseased or something. They got something going on. Maybe it's that disease that the Picard was talking about, or something similar. And I think that's the explanation for the suits is that they can't hold their shape so that because Riker makes a comment that's a little bit doesn't make sense. And maybe there's a scene or something that was cut beforehand where he says, how much of that goo did they pour into you or something along those lines. Right. And that made me think, okay, they can't hold their form. That's why they're in these weird outfits. Maybe that's why they're talking all like blah, 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 blah. But I don't know if there was something that got cut out.
A maddening melody.
Whoa, sorry.
A saccharine song.
I'm sorry. I meant to play this.
Yeah, precisely. The other thing that I do think is a really subtle thing, and there's a lot of these in this season. We certainly haven't caught all of them. Go on Reddit, go on Twitter, etc., to catch all the people who actually pay attention close enough to find all these Easter eggs and things. And not all of them are Easter eggs. Some of them like this are just really, I think, clever character decisions, which is that Sydney LaForge has changed her hairstyle since seeing her corpse, the changeling corpse. Her hairstyle this episode was completely different than it was before. And one can presume that might be a reaction to the trauma of seeing her dead body on the Beverly's autopsy table.
That's a pretty strong argument.
Yeah.
Does anybody know about these Japanese teacups they were talking about? Held together by gold?
Yeah, that's like that whole wabi-sabi thing.
I know about the bourbon.
Yeah, you there's a different term for it, but yeah, it's a whole thing where when you break a cup, when you break a piece of porcelain or china or whatever, you glue it back together and you fill in the cracks with gold, and that it's in some ways stronger and more beautiful as a result. And it's a whole philosophical thing about how it's okay for things to be broken and put back together again, which is a great metaphor for Jack and his whole business with dealing with his dad and the aromatic syndrome and his hallucinations and his Jason Bourne business, all that stuff.
I thought Worf, speaking of Worf, I liked how he said this for some reason.
The portal device.
He goes, portal device.
The portal device.
Portal device.
Portal.
The portal device.
Portal. I think Vadek says something funny too.
And from them, we will rise.
No, that wasn't funny at all. That wasn't funny.
You thought it was funny earlier, and now you don't.
There was something somebody else said that was like all drawn out and weird, and it
She did say hi to Riker. Fun.
The personality partition's in place. So
That was one of them.
All right. I think that does it for us this evening. It was a
I think that
jam-packed
does it,
episode
man.
of Star Trek, resulting in a calm, chill, but
Chock-
otherwise
chock full of Trek.
jam-packed podcast.
I'm not going to
Chockity
play them, but
chock.
every episode I've been recording what the aliens say and trying to write the translations next to them. But it's like they're all blended together, so it's kind of weird. Anyways, I'll play them some other time.
All right.
I'll
We'll
put together-
do a whole bonus episode with just
A
Dan.
maddening melody, a saccharine song.
Yes. Dan will do a podcast episode by himself, just translating all the alien languages. All right. So that does it for this week for us. That does it for us this week at
Star Trek.
The portal device.
It's Got Star Trek podcast. We will be back again next week to discuss, I believe, the episode. There's some confusion, but it appears that episode 7 of this season is called Dominion. And there may be some implications there. Who knows? We'll see. We will watch that and talk about it, and you'll hear us talk about it around the same time next week. But in the meantime, you can find us all sorts of places, in addition to, just finding the podcast and rating and reviewing the podcast on places like iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all those joints. You can also find us on social media.
Seriously?
Yes, quite seriously, Captain Riker. Seriously, you can find us at It's Got Star Trek on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Mastodon.
YouTube.
Go sign up, follow us, join in the conversation
Mastodon.
there. Great community there,
Woolly mammoth.
particularly on Twitter, but all those other places, there's great opportunities to leave comments.
Saber-tooth
the world
tiger.
anymore.
And what else? That's the main thing. Oh yeah, the website.
Commodore the Forge.
www.itsgotstartrek.com. That's a good place, especially if you want to get those links to subscribe.
Commodore.
Subscribe to your service of choice. We got a lot of those links there to make it
And
easy for
more.
you. So
I am
we look forward to talking to you next week about the next episode.
It's ridiculous though that Data was just kept being like, I am Lore, now I'm B4, now I'm Soong. It's kind of like, look at me, I'm B4. Look at me, now I'm Data. You can tell because I'm Data. Like he was just like, I'm announcing who I am. It was just the lines weren't necessary. I think Brent Spiner can act those parts well enough that they didn't.
I think he didn't.
I think it was expositional, low,
especially
probably.
the I am lore bit. I thought was a little.
But it was expositional, I guess, like you were saying earlier, for audience members. That's the word you used.
We can continue this discussion offline. In the meantime, we will talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.
Oh, look at this one. How much of that goose shit did they pour into you?